Welcome to Saying Yes with Dr. No on the Journey with Love. Today we're going to talk about the word suffering. Yep, that's me. I'm all about grief and loss and change and suffering, but not really. Just because, like I have said over and over again, grief, when understood, becomes something that we can accept as part of life, and we do not have to suffer our way through it. It can certainly feel like we have to suffer our way through it when the bottom falls out and the normal ground of our day-to-day life ends. But once we've learned about what grief is and what grief is not, that's when we're able to move more quickly from a state of suffering through the overwhelming feelings of change, loss, and grief. And we can move from suffering into a place of understanding that grief has more to do with attachment than it does suffering. So grief and loss, those are things that we can't avoid. For me, the profound sense of grief I felt when my husband Ray died, and when he was actually in the process of going from diagnosis to death, that was grief at a level I had never experienced. I actually believe I did not understand grief until the most important person on the planet to me was about to leave, and then when he left. So when this happened, when the bottom fell out, I had to quickly learn about what I could and could not change. I could learn from others how they walked through serious losses, how they walked through frustrating changes and profound grief without losing their hard-earned sobriety. When we experience loss as part of our normal existence, it becomes easier to understand what I can change and what I can't change. People who have had losses and have found a way to feel the helplessness that comes from suffering, they experience the suffering for a while, but then they slowly, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, they move into a state of acceptance, not approval. Really important difference. I never really quite understood that suffering is when I did not accept something that already happened. I did not have to approve that my husband was going to die. I did not have to approve that I had breast cancer in my past. Those losses that happened during my life, I don't approve of them, and yet they exist. I don't approve of war. I don't approve of children being hurt. There's a lot of things that I resist. And if I resist them to the point that I don't accept that I cannot fix it, I get involved with a group and work on that problem. When we work on creating metaphorical safety nets in the work we do in groups at the Journey with Love, when we work together, or if you're working with some other group, you can then identify and strengthen what I call the strands of action around recovery, spirituality, and grief and loss. Then you have a three-tiered net, and it's very, very hard for me to fall through a net that is layered. We discover what I call the pendulum of loss, the knowledge that because I have a profound love that is so deep, I will also experience a profound loss. And the swing of that pendulum, when we realize that it represents affection, it represents connection, it represents love, somehow it made it easier for me. The feelings of anger and resentment fade in comparison to the capacity to be grateful that I had someone I loved that much, that I had something that I was attached to that was good, even if it's now changed. And I understand that my journey as a human being, my journey as a spiritual being having a human experience, allows the humanness in me to accept the things that are actually unacceptable. That's how I move from suffering to what I still feel can be a resistant acceptance of the things I cannot change. There's so much to learn. It's so easy to learn it when we work together. It's so hard to do it when we're by ourselves, because recovery, spirituality, and grief and loss are all individual processes that we do best, I believe, together. I'm hoping that I'm inspiring you to become the person who lives in the solution and helps others wade through the landmine of loss, change, grief, recovery, spirituality, grief, and loss. That's a great combination of things to be prepared for. And that's the work we do when we say yes with Dr. No on the Journey with Love. I'm hopeful I'm inspiring you. I'd love to hear your comments as we travel this journey with love together.